Yes.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Welcome to everyone. Nicole, would you please do the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Lloyd White. Councilmember Mike Lara.
Here.
City Manager Elizabeth Gibbs. Economic Development Manager Kyle Wrosinski. Here.
Here.
Good timing.
Chair Betty Rader.
Here.
Vice Chair Rob Moran.
Here.
Member Dustin Nerschel.
Here.
Member Steve Melman.
Here.
Member Evan Brown. Member Von Lawson.
Present.
Alternate Member Richard Beneke.
Present.
Alternate Member Ron Rader.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Do we have a quorum tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Were there any excused absences requested?
No, ma'am.
Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and put your hand across your heart. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? None discussed. Any conflict of interest disclosures? Do we have anyone for public comment, Nicole?
I have no written comments. Rudy, do we have any callers on the line?
I have no callers on the line.
Thank you. Action items are approval of the minutes of our last meeting. If you haven't seen them, they are on your screen, on your computer screen. Are there any questions or exceptions to the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve? All those, do you need to call, you need to do the roll call?
Yes, please. Sorry, I was checking to see if Mr. White was here. Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
City Manager Gibbs? Yes. Economic Development Manager Wrosinski?
Yes.
Chair Betty Rader?
Yes.
Vice Chair Moran?
Yes.
Member Nerschel?
I'll abstain.
Member Melman?
Yes.
Member Brown? Member Lawson?
Yes.
Thank you.
I believe the motion carried. Thank you, Nicole. Next discussion, current vacancies on the committee. Committee discussion. I think this was discussed at City Hall or City Council.
I can give you an intro if you would like. Sorry, getting my screen up.
Okay.
At last night's city council meeting, there was a item on the agenda that was approved to allow the authority for the committee to move alternate members to voting seats on the committee. Currently, you have 2 alternate members, Mr. Rader and Mr. Beneke. There are also 3 vacant seats on the committee currently. 2 of them are community/business member seats. So they can be community members, but the preference is business member. There is also a community member seat available. So there's 3 spots available, 2 alternate members, so the committee has the ability to nominate and motion to move those alternate members to voting seats.
Do I have a motion to move those 2 alternates to?
So move.
Thank you, Steve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Nicole.
And just to confirm, because there are 3 seats, 2 are community/business member and one is a community member. So I would just need clarification on which seats these two members are taking. Mr. Rader and Mr. Beneke.
Well, I was a community member last time, so I'd be happy to be a community member.
And Mr. Rader? Okay, and I'll do a roll call. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Oh, you did sneak in here. Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
City Manager Gibbs?
Yes.
ED Manager Warzinski?
Yes.
Chair Rader?
Yes.
Vice Chair Moran?
Yes.
Member Nerschel?
Yes.
Member Melman?
Yes.
Member Brown?
Yes.
Member Lawson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Do we have an update of projects from city staff?
Nicole, real quick before we move on from that,
Yes.
I just wanted to, we have a few potential youth members in the audience tonight. So we've been recruiting at Beaumont High School, and we have some candidates that we're going through a selection process. So hopefully next meeting or in between, we will have a name to bring forward to City Council for the youth member.
Great, thank you.
So thank you, committee chair, members of the committee. Very brief update from city staff. As you may have noticed, Pennsylvania widening project has started. So very happy about that. The other major updates I think are going to be agendized for tonight's meeting. So the very next presentation and then the business incentive update. So I'll just leave kind of those updates to those agenda items and be done unless the city manager or the deputy city manager have anything to add to the updates from staff report. And we're good. Thank you.
Do we have anybody new coming to town?
Dutch Brothers,
Do you know when they're opening?
hopefully this month. They had some unforeseen delays that prohibited them from opening in February. So they're hoping that if everything goes well, they'll be on track to open later this month. As soon as we know that, we'll of course let the chamber know, and then hopefully work with them on a grand opening, ribbon cutting, something of that sort.
Thank you.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
What about Boston?
I was going to say that, but that's pending the next meeting after this is approval on their conditional use permit. So there is an item for Boston Pizza for their conditional use permit going to Planning Commission tonight after this meeting. So if that interests you or you'd like to speak on that item in favor, please stick around and attend the Planning Commission meeting. I'm sure they'll love to have you. So let's all cross our fingers on that one. Thank you.
Are they giving samples?
I don't know. Probably not during the public hearing on it, no.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any other staff updates? No? Okay, not hearing any. We'll move on to Fats, Oils, and Grease, a FOG presentation. Kyle, do we know who this is? Oh, okay.
I do. I should have introduced. So, committee chair and members of the committee, the fats, oils, and grease presentation is going to be handled by our sewer department and wastewater department. So we have Jax Huntsman here to do a presentation, as well as our utilities general manager, Thaxton Van Bell, who will be aiding in that presentation. So I'm looking forward to it. It's really good.
Thank you, Kyle.
Well, good afternoon, committee chair members. My name is Jack Huntsman, and I am the Environmental Compliance Manager for the city, working with the wastewater department. My primary responsibility is to protect the public sewer system from harmful discharges from industrial, commercial, and residential sources. So the information that I'm presenting this afternoon is intended to bring awareness and understanding as to some of the problematic issues that staff at the wastewater department encounters on a regular basis, as well as present solutions to help minimize and eliminate some of these issues. This is somewhat of a hybrid presentation that will bring attention to two different sources of harmful discharges into the public sewer system, one being from commercial facilities and the other residential. Through education and the use of best management practices, harmful discharges can be significantly reduced, which will result in the cost savings not only to commercial and residential dischargers, but also to the city in reduced maintenance and equipment cost. So for the duration of this presentation, I would refer to food service establishments as FSEs and fats, oils, and grease as FOG. I've entitled this Fats, Oils, and Grease and Flushable Wipes Awareness Presentation. So since the city operates a publicly owned treatment works, which we refer to as a POTW, the city is mandated to implement and enforce various tasks to prevent harmful discharges. The POTW consists of the wastewater treatment plant, the various lift stations throughout the city, and the sewer main lines. What you see on the screen here is the wastewater treatment plant. Plant processes approximately 4 million gallons of wastewater daily, which is then treated and returned back into the environment. The city currently has 205 miles of sewer lines, as well as 25 miles of the brine line, and all discharges from all sources flow through these lines down to the wastewater treatment plant. The four guys with the orange vests here on that photo is our collections crew. They inspect, they clean, and they maintain the sewer lines to clear any blockages as they occur and to prevent the photos that we have showing here, which would be sanitary sewer overflows. So the goal is to prevent these overflows, which is untreated wastewater being discharged into the environment. I do want to note that these photos were not taken in Beaumont. So. We did have a recent sewer overflow back last October. This one fortunately happened to be in a vacant field and did not access a storm drain. These photos here, one on the left shows the wastewater coming out of a manhole that's backed up, and then the collections crew with their Vector truck that are pumping out that manhole to access the blockage. It was identified by the collections crew and determined that the only source of wastewater discharge upstream from this overflow was a FSE, food service establishment. It was also determined that a faulty grease interceptor was creating the excessive amount of fog being discharged into the sewer lines. But I do want to note that the FSE was quick to respond and correct the problem, and they currently maintain it as required. So sewer line blockages, which was the cause of that sewer overflow, can result in from broken sewer pipes, tree roots, or equipment failure at the lift stations. But it's important to highlight here that the EPA's report to Congress identified that fats, oils, and grease was a significant contributor to sewer line blockages. So, what is fog? Simply put, fog is fats, oils, and grease generated from the food preparation, cooking, and cleaning processes. Most FSCs, to some degree, generate and discharge fog, depending on the type of FSC it is, and their use or lack of best management practices. These photos shown here show what can happen when fog cools and accumulates within our sewer lines. Most common sources of fats, oils, and grease generated from residential and food service establishments. Fats, meats, and poultry, just various different types of foods that we all cook with on a daily basis. So food service establishments. By definition, it's any entity engaged in the business of storing, preparing, serving, manufacturing, packaging, or handling food for sale to other entities or consumption by the public. Do all food service establishments discharge the same amount of fog? The answer would be no. Some generate very little, if any at all. Others generate a substantial amount. So the following examples of what would be considered an FSC: gas station food mart, or a coffee shop, a sandwich shop, a school cafeteria, a care center, a fast food facility, and finally, full-service sit-down restaurants. One thing that most, but not all, FSCs have in common is a grease removal device to capture what fog that they do generate. Most facilities have what's called an in-ground gravity grease interceptor. Currently, Beaumont has approximately 100 FSCs of various types, and because some facilities share grease interceptors and others don't have them, there are about 65 grease removal devices. These photos are going to show you what an in-ground gravity grease interceptor looks like. On this photo here, you can see two round compartments of the grease interceptor and a square one right next to the round ones. What happens is the wastewater from the kitchen food prep area and the warewashing area within the kitchen discharge through a grease interceptor. The bathroom, restroom wastewater does not discharge through a grease interceptor. So your first compartment is going to capture the most amount of grease. Your second compartment is going to capture grease as well, but not as much. And your third compartment, which is the sample tank, shouldn't have any grease in it at all, because from there it goes directly into our sewer lines. Again, here's another example of a gravity grease interceptor in ground. Your primary tank, your secondary tank, and your sample tank, which should not have any grease in it, but as you can see in this photo, there's floating clumps of grease, which tells me that this grease interceptor is in need or overdue for servicing. Servicing meaning it needs to be pumped out. This is a side view of the photos I just showed you, just to give you an example how it works. The water comes in through the inlet pipe. All the heavy solids settle at the bottom. All the floating fats, oils, and grease rises to the top. Then the water goes into the next compartment where you have some more solids settle at the bottom, and then more floating grease rising to the top, and then your water goes out to the sewer lines. So what happens is the restaurants or the establishments have to maintain these grease interceptors or pump them out so that the combined solids on the bottom and the floating grease does not exceed 25% of the total liquid depth of that grease interceptor. Once it does, then you're going to have fats, oils, and grease bypassing this, as we saw in that last photo. So as we can see, there's a wide range of types of food service establishments and within those various types are various amounts of fats, oils, and grease that is generated from these facilities. Given the legal mandate to implement a comprehensive fog program, to complement and improve upon the existing Municipal Code 13.09 regulating fog, city staff is therefore proposing to establish a fog discharge risk scoring system. This will help business owners and staff determine which types of FSCs would be required to install a grease removal device. The kitchen equipment inventory score sheet, which you see on the left there and which you also have in front of you, will be used as a guide to help determine the level of risk that an FSC poses in the discharge of fog. The score sheet categorizes various types of cooking equipment by the potential it has to generate fog. For example, high-risk cooking equipment such as a deep fryer or grill will generate more fog than low-risk equipment such as a microwave or warming oven. Other factors could include, is the FSC a single-service or full-service establishment? Is the FSC upstream of a sewer line hotspot location? Or how many seats does the establishment utilize? Once the equipment in the FSC is inventoried on the score sheet and calculated along with the other factors, the FSC will then be categorized within 4 different categories. A Category 4 discharger might be a coffee or juice-only shop, a yogurt or ice cream shop, a sandwich shop, or a gas station food mart. Generally would not generate any grease at all, if very little. A Category 3 discharger might be a donut shop or a pizza-only store. A Category 2 discharger would be the facilities with higher risk equipment along with other factors, but does already have a grease removal device installed. And then a Category 1 discharger would be a facility similar to a Category 2, but they would not have one installed. Once they did get one installed, then obviously they would move to being a Category 2 discharger. Then finally, per the proposed edition of BMC 13.09130, the requirement for the installation of grease removal device will be based on the category that the FSC falls within. Because it is somewhat detailed, I would refer you to the specific details of that proposed section of the municipal code. So part 2 of this presentation is more applicable to the residential dischargers. And that would be the topic of flushable wipes. So these photos here show, again, these are not from Beaumont, but they are typical of the issues that we do see here in Beaumont. The combination of fats, oils, and grease and flushable wipes creates what's called a fatberg. Fatberg is a mass of non-biodegradable matter made up of materials such as fats, oils, and grease, and flushable wipes that collects, grows, and eventually blocks a sewer system. So I'm going to present a short little video clip, and I do want to highlight before we start this that this video clip is from the Detroit sewer system. It's a massive system. We have nowhere near the size of water of sewer lines that Detroit does, but we see the same kind of problems, but just on a much smaller scale.
Our tale begins in Macomb County, Michigan, at the Clintondale Pump Station.
Before we go inside, I have to warn you, this story is disgusting, and I don't like disgusting. So of course, my wonderful coworkers decided I'd be perfect to cover a story about things that we find in the sewer. This is a sewage pump station, and in 2018, they found something big in a sewer not far from here. Will Glover, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm here to meet Macomb County Public Works Commissioner Candace Miller. If there's sewer problems, they're her problems.
Let's just cut to the chase. What is a fatberg?
Well, a fatberg is something that sometimes sewer systems, they're found in the sewer systems. Macomb County found one made up of greases and oils that people have put down their drain rather than disposing of them properly in their garbage. And our particular fatberg was 19 tons, 100 feet long,
100 feet long?
11 feet wide, and 6 foot tall. That was our fatberg.
That's a gigantic clog, and if it gets too big, it can mean raw sewage backs up into basements or gets released into rivers or lakes. The fatberg removal cost $100,000. Its discovery came as Miller's team was looking more closely at what was going on beneath. A few years before Miller became commissioner, an aging sewer pipe collapsed, causing a sinkhole. Part of a major street and a house fell in, repairs costing many tens of millions of dollars. A big story, but the fatberg, that was even bigger.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
With a piece of the Fatberg by her side, Commissioner Miller invited the press to come by and see it. The Fatberg had its star turned in the fall of 2018.
But as I say, we want to use this as a teachable moment if we can for folks to try to change people's behavior of what they're putting down the sewers.
What behavior does she want you to change? Well, this is a flushable wipe, and Candace Miller wants you to stop flushing things like this down the drain. Because once this gets in the sewer system, it can form what's called a rag ball. And once oil and grease and dirt and trash get caught up in this, it can start to form a gigantic fatberg.
The wipes were the binding agent for the Macomb County Fatberg.
How do you get this stuff out of the sewer or out of the water system?
Well, what you can see here is what we call the rake. And so this thing literally goes down very deep into our wet well here, and it is pulling up these wipes, these rags as we call them. And they dump them right into a bin, right? A trash bin here.
No.
A big dumpster.
Oh my goodness. That is
so
terrible.
we get several of these dumpsters a week at this particular facility, just full of these wipes.
It looks foul, but the smell is diabolical. Most of the fatberg is now in a landfill, but some of it is being studied at Wayne State University's Integrative Biosciences Center, where Tracy Baker looks after it.
So you have an actual piece of the fatberg here in this lab, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so were you really excited when you found out you were going to be working and studying a fatberg? Were you like, yay?
I was a little maybe timid at first.
Yeah.
Carol Miller had contacted me asking if I would be interested in studying the fatberg. I had to kind of look up what a fatberg was before I made that decision.
Carol Miller, no relation to Candace Miller, was the driving force behind getting the fatberg into the laboratory.
I'm very interested in what goes through our pipes, so when this huge backup occurred in Macomb County, I thought, wow, this is exactly my sort of stuff.
Baker, Miller, and a team of students are getting to know the fatberg up close and personal.
So your hands are in the tank, you're
Right.
moving stuff around.
So we're just looking to see what we can find in the fatberg. It's mostly plastic and wipes. We found a bunch of tampon applicators, and we can see like sheets like this, which is just wipes, looks like.
Is there anything in these fatbergs that you guys have pulled out that you're like surprised by? Like, I never thought that would be in a sewer, much less here with me now.
Mustard packets. Yeah.
Mustard packets?
Yeah, it just looks like somebody's trash can.
What are we trying to find out?
We're trying to find out what sort of compounds are included in a fatberg. We want to know a little more about what sort of chemicals are involved in a fatberg and how could those impact us if bypasses occur and the raw sewage goes into the river. And then we drink that water. So what we put into the water eventually comes back into our body. So we'd like to know about what's in those pipes.
Yeah, you just made your job exponentially more important when
There
you
you
put
go.
it that way.
We think that it's probably acting as a sponge because the wipes kind of absorb. So I think that it could definitely be concentrating chemicals, and then the bacteria, because it's sitting in sewage for a long amount of time, like the bacteria, many different kinds of bacteria, potentially harmful ones, could be accumulating.
So when you're looking at bacteria, is that like a DNA test? Like you're testing the DNA to see which bacteria, to identify the bacteria?
Exactly, yeah. So we take parts of the fatberg and then we're able to do an extraction. We concentrate it and then do an extraction, and then we do DNA sequencing to look at all the different bacteria
So
that are part of it.
It's 23andMe, but for a fatberg.
Exactly.
Okay.
The research also comes back to the biggest issue concerning this fatberg mess. It's these wipes. When they go down the drain, how do they break down?
This is a wipe that said that it was flushable after 48 hours.
I don't think that's going to go through.
I don't think so.
I'm not the smartest man in the world, but
So you can see that is almost fully intact.
yeah. And this is flushable.
This is a flushable wipe, yep. As you can see, didn't break down. And that's basically what we see for almost all of the wipes that we've been looking at.
And giving the wipes more time doesn't seem to help.
This particular wipe has been in this water for over a year.
A year?
And it looks like you just put it in there a
It looks
minute ago.
brand new.
It looks brand new.
There are defenders of flushable wipes, which are a worldwide multi-billion-dollar-a-year industry.
The Responsible Flushing Alliance yes, it's a real thing. It's an industry group. Says that it's not flushable wipes that's the problem. It's people flushing things like paper towels, feminine hygiene products, and other non-flushable items down the toilet. But the folks specializing in sewage say you shouldn't flush anything but toilet paper. No wipes of any kind, no matter what they say.
You know, if you pick one of those up in the grocery store and it says flushable, and you're using it, you're thinking, oh, flushable. I'm flushing it, right? I'm going to flush it down the toilet.
Right.
Must be all right. Says so right there, you know, on the packaging. Actually, it's a nationwide problem, and even internationally. In fact, London just had to deal with a big fatberg. New York has a big fatberg. They're around, and it's because of all these wipes.
There's no safe sewer system anywhere.
No, and we're doing it to ourselves. I think that Congress should be passing some legislation that outlaws them from packaging with those words on there, that they're flushable. They should say non-flushable, non-biodegradable. And other than that, if they just did that, that would be fine.
So just to briefly go over how a sewer system works, from the source, either residential, industrial, or commercial, it flows primarily gravity to the wastewater treatment plant. Occasionally, because of the topography, as we do here in Beaumont, we require to have a pump station which will pump it up to a higher elevation to where it can then flow down to the next either pump station or down to the wastewater treatment plant. But I just want to highlight the pump station here because this next photo is one of our lift stations. And what these guys are doing here are collection screws. They're pumping out what's called a wet well. It's a very large well where the wastewater flows in from different areas of the community. So this here is Beaumont's fatberg. Within that well is a combination of the wipes and the grease and the fats and oils, and it all collects. And this particular one has to be pumped out every 2 weeks because of the excessive amount of material that accumulates in it. And just to bring up a point is that this is strictly from a residential area. There's no industry or commercial facilities that feed into this particular lift station. Also want to note that it's exactly the same type of material that was shown in that video, but just on a much smaller basis. So in conclusion, again, just to reiterate previously from the introduction, a goal of the wastewater department is to reduce harmful discharges into the public sewer system. Education is the primary means to residential dischargers through presentations at HOA community meetings, social media outreach, and educational materials made available to the public. For commercial dischargers, not only education, but also compliance with the requirements of the city fog ordinance. So with that, I end my presentation.
Thank you very much. Is Thankston here? Is he going to? Would you like to present now? Thank you.
So what we've been working hard to do is prevent those, obviously, throughout the system. And part of that was the going forward on a economic level and business level is to produce the scoring sheet that was featured in the presentation. If we go way back, it was kind of the wild, wild west, and you can see some of the consequences of that. And then we adopted the County of Riverside's policy, which is basically if there's a 3-compartment sink, you need one and there's no exceptions. And that became a little too restrictive. As you saw some of those examples, they just don't put a lot out. And that's where we think development of a score sheet like this is going to be really helpful for businesses in the future. You can look at the sheet, you know what you're going to bring in equipment-wise, you know where you sit on the score sheet, and you'll know what would be expected to protect the system for the size and the type of establishment that's coming in. And if anyone's got any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Do we have any kind of a score sheet now? I mean, when a restaurant comes in, we just let them decide, or how do we handle a restaurant now?
Today, it falls on the County of Riverside's policy, which states if there's a 3-compartment sink, grease removal item is needed, period. So that captures a lot of the places like Jack showed earlier, like a gas station that maybe just has a hot dog roller, or a yogurt shop, or anybody that has food prep or a sink in the back is going to get caught having to put in the full device. And we worked with a firm that's done a similar system in Orange County and other areas to try to be a little more open, for businesses to maybe not have to put in the full infrastructure if not needed. And yet, at the same time, the ultimate goal is to protect the system. So if you're bringing in a full-scale restaurant, you're going to trip enough of these, and it's going to register that you should have the full device.
Do we as a city have a ongoing inspection system where we go out to local restaurants and?
That's this gentleman
they're
right
doing
here. He
good.
is out there almost every day of the week. He's does inspections of not just the restaurants, but our industrial users as well.
Is this score sheet something unique to Beaumont, an idea that you guys came up with, or are there other types of score sheets being used elsewhere? And if so, have they proven to be effective? I mean, in helping businesses allocate their resources in the appropriate way to comply
Yeah,
with
so there's a
with the
couple
rules and
different ways.
regulations?
There's a few different ways of doing it. One is, the zero tolerance policy, so to speak. One is to do nothing, but that's really bad for everyone involved. Another way is to actually go out and take samples and actually test each constituent. The problem with that is they would already have to exist, come in, and then you might be telling somebody later or after the fact. And obviously day-to-day prep and the volume of business could vary. So you'd be out there doing that testing and at any one time, trigger somebody. So the concept of the scoring sheet has been established by an environmental group that worked to develop it for Orange County first. So it's tried and true. It's really helped them bring down their level of spills for fats, oil, and grease, but yet still be business friendly. It has been tailored for the city of Beaumont and our size and scale. We made adjustments in that way for us.
Okay. And it's before this committee because is there some recommendation that, does this have to become an ordinance, or, I mean, how?
It would, yes.
It would have to be some kind of an
It was
ordinance
presented,
to go into effect.
previously
So-
as part of our proposed fog ordinance to council in a workshop, and we'll be coming back for adoption in the future.
I think, personally, I think it's a great idea. I mean, people want to know, especially people in business, want to know where they're at. I mean, there's so many rules and regulations that hand tie people and upset people, but if people know what they need to do, and it's an effective process that helps us and our sewer system and everything else, it just makes common sense.
And that's the way we're looking at it as well,
okay.
yeah.
Madam Chair, quick observation and 2 quick questions. First of all, to our city council members that are here, don't follow me to the car for saying this, but whatever they're paying you all to clean this thing out is not enough. That's for sure. 2 quick questions. Where I'm from, that interceptor looks like a good old-fashioned septic system. And my question is, are businesses that set up these restaurants that score 1 or 2, they're going to be responsible for purchasing that system?
That is correct, yes.
There is. So do we know how much those things cost in terms of being able to provide that information to a business up front?
They do vary in size. An in-ground can vary anywhere from 500 gallons to 2,000 gallons typically. We do have one here in Beaumont that's about 6,000 gallons, but that's only one. So of the 65 that we have in town here, they typically are about 1,000 to 1,500 gallons. A recent one that was put in, I inquired from the manufacturer, the cost of that unit. The actual unit itself was about $8,000, but total to have it installed, engineered and installed, ran about $20,000.
Wow, okay. And we don't have, like often in automotive shops, they have disposal of oil, and they have businesses that will come and dispose it. They don't have that in the restaurant industry?
Yes, they do. They have waste haulers that come and pump those out.
Okay.
And they'll also take the used cooking oil, but that's a separate thing. That stuff does not enter into the sewer system. They just pump out the grease interceptors, which is then taken to a disposal facility where it's recycled and turned into other matter. So,
Thank you.
Madam Chair. So I wanted to sort of respond to your question as to why, we're looking at this today. Our business incentive program that we put together focused on this because we had a lot of small businesses. Once we started with the new brine line and we have an obligation to people downstream, we started finding out some businesses, that may have just a hot dog roller, like he's saying, or were being required to put in a full-on grease interceptor. So we heard from the business owners that would be, some of them may go out of business over that. And that's why the business incentive program we came up with was so important to get passed, because now we provide them some assistance in making that investment. I had a question for you, though. Are
Absolutely.
you aware of any other cities or communities that have some kind of campaign against flushable wipes?
Orange County has a whole division committed to it. They actively campaign and lobby, but as you saw in the video, you're up against a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's really tough to gain any traction or get anywhere. But there are a number of agencies that do actively and politically pursue rebranding of flushable items. In the industry, it's not just wipes. I've seen toilet brushes with the head that pops off. And the intention is, that it's flushable, and those are kind of things that they don't dissolve, they don't break down, they become more subterfuge in the system, especially in the wet wells.
But I don't think I'm alone here that we saw almost the same presentation last night, but there was no discussion of the flushable wipes, and I would have gone home tonight and flushed a wipe not knowing the issue. So I'm just saying, I don't know how many of you here would have thought twice about flushing something that says it's flushable.
Yeah, what we saw tonight was a little more of our public outreach. Jack has been going out and staff, and we've been doing presentations for anywhere from the high schools to many of the community centers in town. So,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So one of the things that our staff has done, and Jack included, was in developing this list that you have, is this list goes to potential business owners that are interested in opening up a business. And what it does is it gives the business owner an idea of what they'll be responsible for in the future as far as purchasing or having to be responsible for installing a grease interceptor. And so, because what we're trying to do is to get out ahead of the problem or the potential financial issue. And so staff has done a tremendous job in trying to make future business owners aware of their responsibilities or their fiscal responsibilities and tying into our sewer system, because what's happened is in the past, the city, when I say in the past, this is years and years ago, didn't really do a very good job in ensuring that businesses install grease interceptors. Mm-hmm. And that's caused a problem that we have today in regards to some of the businesses that open up that are brand new in an area where a previous business was that didn't have a grease interceptor, and then now they have to install one. So staff's been really diligent in trying to make sure that those businesses are compliant, because we've invested $100 million in a new expansion in our sewer plant, our wastewater treatment plant. And so they've done an excellent job in trying to ensure that we get out ahead of this problem, let folks know what they're going to be investing, and ensuring that our system functions properly in the future. So
Thank
just want
you.
to share that with you.
I have one more question. If you are a 6 or below, do you have to install a grease interceptor if you're?
No, and that's the point of the scoring system. So that's a perfect example. So you can kind of look over some of these items and see, especially if you're the business owner, the potential business owner coming in, you know what you intend to put in your establishment, and you know where you score. And in that case, you would be a really low risk, and it would not be recommended that you install a grease interceptor. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?
Madam Chair, does our sewer system accept effluent from other cities, other jurisdictions?
We do not, and we are specifically prohibited from doing so at this time. Yep.
Yes.
Are there fines for businesses that don't put proper equipment in?
In the event of a spill, we can push the costs of the spill, including the cleanup and any monetary fines, towards the business. Right now, we are more looking for compliance. More than anything, we're just trying to get everybody up to date and in order and compliance. So far, everybody's been really receptive to this, but yeah, ultimately, if you have a bad actor, that is a tool at the city's disposal.
Thank you. Thank you both very much. That was very informative. Everything I ever wanted to know.
Very sickening. Do we need any action, or just as?
I don't think we need an action at this time. Next item is the Downtown Business Incentive Program update. Kyle?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. First of all, I'd like to thank Jack and Thaxton for coming today and presenting that. I knew that fat soils and grease were a problem. I had never seen a fatberg in person, but when seeing one, even via video, I don't know if I want to see it in person, but it underscores the need to be cognizant about what you flush down the toilet, and it really also scores the importance of our businesses, who we feel are our partners operating within the city, to comply with our regulations. So beyond that, don't flush any flushable wipes. So I think that the first time I heard about the scoring system, I was ecstatic, because what a business wants to know when they're coming into town is what their costs are going to be. They want definitive line items. I need to install fire sprinklers. I need to install a kitchen. Need to pass the health inspection. Those types of things for restaurants. They are likely not thinking of a grease trap or a grease interceptor, and the scoring system allows me to simply pass along that prospective business to Jack and his team and Thaxton's team to go through the scoring and determine what, if any, grease trap device is going to be needed for that business before they even open. And that's imperative, because we don't want to have them do $10,000 or $15,000 worth of TIs or sign a 5-year lease on a building for them to run out of money needing this device and never be able to open. We've done nothing except for fail collectively on that one. So we're very excited to work with them on that. Perfect dovetail into the business incentive program update is one of the incentive programs that council approved was for grease trap installation. Only for existing restaurants as of the date that our mandate to comply with that came down, which was September of 21. Is that correct, Jack? Or was it 22? One of those two. So either way, we know what it is. It's in the guidelines. I just don't have it memorized. So we have a list of certain businesses. It's a finite list. It's not exhaustive. It's only 7 or 8 that don't have one using the scoring system are going to need one. Some of those 8 have recently finished installation of one. So this incentive program, we're reaching out to each of them individually, provides them the option to provide us receipts if they've already done it, or 3 bids, prevailing wage, to install one, plus the cost of the device itself. And the city would reimburse them half of that cost. I think it's definitely gonna be supportive from the existing businesses, because right now they're staring down that price tag on, do I do this or do I close? Initial discussions with them is they're very happy that council approved that, and we're hoping to be able to get some of those applications in for review and some of those funding agreements in place to either help fund it or reimburse what they've already done. It does not apply to new restaurants that are coming in, because the new restaurants that are coming in are going to know about their requirement before they open, right? So that's the update on that one. We do have 4 of the facade improvement program applications that have been submitted. They're going through their initial assessment and feasibility. We received 1 fee waiver, and that's the one where if you have an idea and you want to draw up a conceptual plan and concept of what you want to do on that property, but you're not certain it's going to work, you can apply for a fee waiver for a pre-application or a building investigation, in which our building department goes through the building and, to the best of their ability, identifies things that aren't quite right or may need changing. So we have 1 of those, and then we have 1 new business application for a new business that's looking at coming into the city. So we're excited about that. Beyond that, I've talked to around 5 or 6 that are currently working on their facade applications. Hopefully they all submit, they may not. And then around 4, possibly 5 as of today on new businesses that are looking for locations that may qualify and be eligible for the new business money. The total requested funds thus far under what is currently pending, $147,000 for the facades, and that's our half that we would contribute plus whatever theirs is, and then $25,000 for the new business. So program's working. It's on our website, which is beaumontca.gov/downtown. You'll find all 4 incentive programs on there, which is the facade, the fee waiver, the new or expanding business program, and then the sewer fee deferral program. That one we haven't seen any interest in, but that is related to new restaurants or bars or breweries, distilleries, so forth, that typically have a higher than average sewer connection fee. So that's going to be the main beneficiary of that program. So when we get those in, we may see that. I do have cards for you all. So to help advertise the business attraction expansion program, we have flyers. Daniel has those, and we'll give one to each of you so you kind of know the parameters of the program. But we have these handy business cards that you're able to keep in your wallet, your purse, your front pocket, or in your glove box in your car. And what we're asking to do is, if you go to a restaurant or a bar or brewery that you think is nice, like top notch, like that would be nice in downtown Beaumont, give them one of these cards. Have them scan that thing. It brings them to the website that has the business incentive programs, has economic development's contact information on there. And that way you don't really have to sell them on the program there. You don't have to carry around a huge binder of everything like that. Just have them scan the thing. If they have questions, you can always have them give me a call. But this allow you each get around 20. If you run out, come back, I'll give you more. If you don't want to give them out, that's perfectly fine as well. But I wanted that option available to each of the committee members so that you can go out there. And I plan on using it. If I go to a nice deli, I'm like, man, here's this card. go ahead. It probably works better than my business card. So we're excited about that one. That concludes my report on the business incentive programs. They are live. If you know anyone that is interested or may have questions, you can either direct them to the website or have them give me or Daniel a call, and we'll be more than happy to walk them through that program.
Thank you. Kyle,
you.
it sounds like you've had a fantastic response. I mean, I
It's-
think that's marvelous, how many people responded.
It's been pretty good. I'm excited. Like I said, there's a lot of people that have called that are working on it, so I'm hoping they don't wait too long because the funding is limited. When we hit the number, we'll have to put the other ones on hold, but I think that will be a great problem to have. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And next is continued downtown business and landowners to promote business growth and development in the central business district. Is that you again, or did you?
It is. It's a furtherance of the discussion we've been having. One of the things I wanted to make the committee aware of is we're going to be holding another downtown business meeting to discuss the different programs that are now live. And also another program that we're in the final stages of launching, and I'll tell you guys if you can keep it a secret for about a month or so. It's called the Beaumont Eats and Treats Passport to Downtown. And what it is, we'll have, I think there's 13 restaurants, and we'll have a passport card. And if you eat at each of those 13 restaurants, you complete your passport and you submit that to us for a prize and enter into a raffle for bigger prizes than just the one you get for completing it. So it's going to be pretty cool. We've had good amount of interest in the downtown businesses that want to participate. So we're happy about that. And we'll talk about that at that meeting and kind of launch it at that point in time. One other item that I debated whether to bring it up on the program update or during this item, and I decided on this item, is the Economic Development Committee as well as the Business Committee was instrumental in crafting these incentive programs that are on the street now and that council approved funding for. And if you can remember back 6 or 8 months ago or so, we were listening to business owners, we were having those meetings, and our goal was to hear what their concerns were. What were the barriers of entry to the downtown? Why couldn't we get people to come here in the past? One was, and Councilmember White alluded to it, that other cities were providing attraction dollars. So we're not at a level playing field and competing with our neighbors that are offering money. So we created that. One was our sewer fees. So we created the deferral on sewer fees. We want to make the buildings look nicer, so we have that facade program. There's been a new one that's come up within the last couple weeks that the program's been live, and it wasn't one that we necessarily envisioned until we started talking about new businesses coming into older buildings that had never been a restaurant or a bar, or some of our existing businesses that have been happy for years, but now we're like, maybe the time is now to expand. And what this new barrier entry is when you hit a certain size or occupant load on restaurants or bars or breweries that sell alcohol, you hit a trigger for fire sprinklers. And it's for safety, it's 100% needed, it's encouraged, I encourage it. It just happens to be a barrier of entry. Some of the existing businesses were like, well, I'm close to that number in terms of my occupant load. If I add 1,000 square feet, I'm over, and now I have to fire sprinkler my entire space. I don't own the building. It's cost prohibitive to do so. I don't have the money to do so. So I just won't expand. So I can't take advantage of your program. Or they'll tell me, I'll get the 25,000 if I expand, but I'm literally going to spend it all on the fire sprinklers. But I don't want to use it on the fire sprinklers. I wanted to use it on my expansion and the TI work or hiring new employees to expand my business. So one of the thoughts we came up with is if we've identified a new barrier of entry, maybe we craft an incentive program that's similar to the other ones where we help alleviate that cost. So a concept is to come up with maybe for certain types of industry groups that these are going to trigger, an incentive program that obviously we would have to make a recommendation to council, but something that would half the cost or share in the cost of installation of that fire sprinkler system into that business that allows a new one to come in to an older building or one that's existing to expand. So that's something we've been throwing around. Love to hear everyone's thoughts on it. We can also bring it back to a future meeting if so desired.
Have you encountered any businesses that have encountered this situation?
3, one as recent as yesterday.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. Does anyone have any questions for Kyle? Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
I guess we are down to our member reports. We can go around the room, starting with Steve. Do you have anything to report? Dustin?
No report.
I'll wait till the end.
I'm always promoting a golf tournament. We do have for our 8th year in a row, the LPGA, and now it's the Epson, used to be the Symetra golf tournament. It's kind of the feeder tour to the LPGA for the young ladies and young women who want to pursue a career in golf. We're the only town that has a golf course that hosts this tournament in California. They have like 28 or 29 tournaments a year spread throughout the United States. We get a lot of publicity from it. The city recently has become kind of a partner in this program. In fact, last year they had a challenge during the they have these golf outings with the corporate sponsors. They call them sponsor outings, and the tour players, the LPGA Epson tour players go with some of these people that put up money to help the purse and help put on the tournament. The city had a little challenge with the other cities, and they won. I don't know how, but they actually won. I mean, it was a big surprise, but it was a good surprise, yeah. And, yeah, I have. Anyway, it's coming up the end of this month, the 24th through the 26th, or 26th to the 28th. It's the last full weekend of March. I'd like to encourage all of you to come out and watch. It's free. It's you see some great golf, and some of these girls you'll watch, you'll turn on the TV in a couple of years, and they'll be actually playing on the LPGA, winning lots of money. And we host players if you're also interested in housing players. Because it's kind of a developmental tour, a lot of these young ladies do not have a lot of money. It does cost money to play in the tournaments. So communities along the way have been trying to help them out by hosting them. A lot of them do request to be hosted in the community. So we do have that program going, and again, I'm just getting it out there because I think I'm proud of it. I'm proud that Beaumont is a city that has a tournament of this quality. It is really a quality tournament, and the only one in California at this level, this developmental tour level. So anyway, I just want to get that out there since it's the end of the month.
Elizabeth, do you have anything? The only thing I have is this Friday is our Good Morning Beaumont breakfast, and we are privileged to have Miss Elizabeth Gibbs as our speaker, giving us a mid-year update. So there's still a few seats open if you want to come. A lot of you have already signed up, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Betty, real quick. So I just want to thank the students for being in the audience. So if you're still interested in serving on the committee, hang out and let's talk briefly before you leave. And then just really quick from the school district, we want to thank the city for last month. We were acknowledged to celebrate CTE month. And we had a wonderful CTE showcase with our students who put on an amazing event to show the skills that they're learning every day in our vocational skills classes. And so we want to thank you for that, and also our expansion at the high school. You've seen the signs along Cherry Valley Boulevard is coming along very nicely. The building is near complete. We ran into a lot of delays based on materials being out in the ocean and on cargo ships during that whole time. So, but it's really coming along nicely, and a whole new approach to the school to increase safety and expand that school so that we have room for all the students that keep coming to our wonderful district. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Topics for future agendas, introduction to new business program.
Didn't get an opportunity to
I'm
do
sorry,
a
I thought
report.
we just went zoom, zoom, zoom.
I just
Go right
wanted
ahead.
to respond to Mr. Beneke. I've been to that tournament 8 years now. What I do, it's a lot of fun for me and my kids, is Sunday's the final day, and they have an app online, and you go and figure out where the leaders are, and then you can go and meet up with them like at the 10th or the 11th hole, and then follow them in. And it's really exciting because, you know, as you're following them, it's just like on TV. And these ladies are amazing. They can drive like you wouldn't believe. So anyways, I just wanted to put in my 2 cents and say, you know, it's a free, and it is probably one of the few destination events we have besides Cherry Festival. And, you know, it is something that's put us on the map. So just wanted to put my 2 cents in there. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, we can move on to topics for future agendas. Introduction to new business program. Not quite sure what that is, but. And then the RCTC passenger rail project. I guess if there's any movement on that, we could discuss it, but I haven't heard anything. Anyone here on any of the committees for that?
Actually, yes, I am on
thought
the
you were.
RCTC's rail committee, and it's moving along slowly as anything with government, especially as federal government and railroads are involved. But there is, RCTC came and did a presentation for council.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be more than happy to come and do one here. They also did a presentation, open house for the Highland Springs interchange. And that was last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, in the middle of a heavy downpour, and they still had hundreds of people there. But yes, not a whole lot of movement on the rail, but it is something that RCTC is still pushing through.
One last thing too, the chamber would like to thank everyone that participated in our Citizen of the Year event. It was wonderful, and I hope you all enjoyed yourselves at the event, except for the snow. Is there any other questions or concerns?
Can we offer something for possible future
Certainly.
agenda? I don't know if this would be appropriate or not, but again, because of the pandemic, I haven't been able to come to the meeting. I've been kind of Zooming, and I'm glad I'm here. I'd rather be in person and see all these lovely people and faces and people interested in our community. But having to get here from Tournament Hills, where I live, took me probably 10, 15 minutes longer than it should have taken me. I mean, it's really transportation around here, and when I go throughout the community, it's kind of number one, or at least number two topic about circulation. You know, I know Pennsylvania, it's been a long haul. Potrero, God, when I moved here, they talked about Potrero, and finally we got a bridge built, but there's no on-ramps or off-ramps. I know the Cherry Valley Boulevard, that's Calamasa, but I don't know if there's anything we could coordinate with them. I know it's all funding based. I know there's a lot of politics involved. a lot of prioritizing with the county. But I just have a feeling that if we could maybe, I don't get a better understanding how it all works, that we might be able to help in some way to get some of these projects moving, to help get the circulation in our community, because business is based on circulation. Caltrans did an unprecedented shutdown a few days ago, and that freeway was stopped from 8 o'clock in the morning till almost 8 o'clock at night. I mean, and we're the only exit out of Los Angeles when you think about it. I mean, unless you go up to the Cajon Pass, if you're going east, it's the only way out of here, and we get the 60 converge into here, and it's like, maybe we need to just build a lot more restaurants and hotels and motels, because people are going to be spending the night and eating here a lot. So, I don't know if this is even under our purview as an economic development, but to me, it does have to do with business, and I'd just like to kind of hear maybe where we're at on some of these projects. And
Ms. Rader and commission or committee, if you would like, we can have our Public Works Director, Jeff Hart, come and give a presentation on the status of some of the projects that the committee members speaking to, and let you know where we're at with those, and then I can provide on the legislative end some of the things that we're doing in relation to the funding. If that's the committee's wish, we can set that up for a future agenda item. Yes, we do. We have some amazing handouts that have been created that we've been using out on social media, but we can also provide those as well.
That would be a great idea. He did give that presentation to the chamber, and it was excellent. And Kyle did mention today that they're moving forward with Pennsylvania Avenue, which is exciting because, and what Mr. Hart did was he explained everything that's involved with getting something like that done. And it's an unbelievably long process. It just happened overnight. Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? My first meeting, are you ready? It's 5:11. There we go. Thank you very much.